Hello, everyone. We will start here shortly. So we're right at the 2 o'clock mark, so I'll go ahead and do a couple of little introductions and a couple of housekeeping items today. So welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Um, Today's webinar, Understanding Social Security, is brought to you by LPL Financial and also brought to you by InTouch Credit Union. My name is Rufus Guidry. I'm the Market Development Advisor with InTouch Credit Union. I'll be one of your co-moderators for today's session. So before we begin, just a few quick housekeeping items. All chat and question functionality will be muted during today's presentation. At the end, we'll reserve some time for question and answers as time allows. So if you'd like to ask a question, you'll please use your raise the hand feature to be unmuted. And if we're able to answer all questions, and if we're unable to answer all questions in the queue, we will be given some information to contact Michael Pack, who I will introduce to you here shortly, and he'll be able to get back to you. So now it is my pleasure to introduce our other co-moderator, Michael Pack, Wealth Advisor. Michael served in the financial service industry since 1995. His experience includes Bank of America, Mass Mutual Financial, Merrill Lynch, Ameriprise, and some other additional companies before joining InTouch Investment and Retirement Services. Michael began his career with Mass Mutual, and he focused on insurance and investment products. And since 2005, he's also specialized in managing investment portfolios for his clients. So without further ado, Michael, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Rufus. And I want to thank all of you for joining this Understanding Social Security presentation this afternoon. A few months back when they asked me what topic should we cover to introduce to our members, and I thought the Social Security would be a great fit for our members to understand, when to take the money out and when not to, and so on. So I found a great presenter, and I want to introduce her to you. Her name is Samantha Hughes. She is a divisional vice president with Protective Life, and she has extensive knowledge in this. And I would like to introduce her to you guys so she could present this. So, Samantha, you want to go and take it away?
Absolutely. Had to come off a mute there. Forgive me. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much to both Rufus and to Michael for allowing Protective to be a partner in today's presentation. I am super excited to be talking Social Security again. Michael shared that I'm a divisional vice president, so I actually manage a group of wholesalers who support our financial advisors like Michael in the Southeast. But not long ago, I actually sat in their shoes and got to give these presentations quite often. So I was super excited when I was asked to do this again because this subject matter, as well as Medicare, is very near and dear to my heart. As I know, Michael does a tremendous amount of retirement planning and specifically retirement income planning. A big part of your overall income plan is going to be Social Security. And what we find is about on average, 40% of our pre-retirement income comes from Social Security. Now, why do I say on average? Well, you got to remember, if I'm a high net worth earner, that might be a little bit less. If I'm a lower net worth earner, maybe that percentage is a little bit more. But regardless, if we stop and we think of 40% as being a part of our distribution plan, and if we think of distribution planning in this way, during our working years, we're accumulating. So think of it as we're putting money in the buckets or on the pile. Michael is helping you to save. He's helping you to look through your investment strategy and see where there may be a gap. Then we climb this mountain of accumulated wealth, and at some point you walk into the office and you say, Michael, I am ready to retire. And then the planning starts to shift because now our planning is not how big can we get the pile, how big can we keep the pile. It's more about how can we put a spigot on all of that wealth and have a distribution plan that lasts as long as all of you do. So that's where Social Security and Protective kind of come into play. We utilize solutions with our advisors to help our clients have predictable income. Well, what's Social Security? A very predictable income source for all of you. So it's very important because if we can eke out one more dollar out of Social Security, that's one less dollar that you potentially have to take off of that pile of money that you've now accumulated. So, what we're going to go through today is Social Security and how the evolution of it as that distribution mechanism has changed over the years. We're going to talk specifically individual benefits. Bullet 3 says when to file. What I think we should do is we should cross that out because what most people say to me is as soon as possible. But I'm going to give you some pros and cons to why that might be a good idea, to potentially why you might want to wait. And then, pardon me, my least favorite topic here, taxation of how we're going to tax those benefits. That's the part of the presentation I ask you, please don't shoot the messenger. I don't make the rules, I just tell you about them. So without any further ado, that's our agenda. Let's hop right in. Let's talk a little bit though, how did Social Security become what it is? And if we went back in the hot tub time machine all the way back to the Great Depression led us to needing to have systematic income to retire our very poor in this country. And if we went back in time and we looked, there was at the beginning 27 workers paying in for every one recipient. Interestingly enough, you couldn't get Social Security till age 62, which is still today's truth as well. And other than in some instances where sadly, if you've become disabled or if you've lost a spouse, which we're going to talk about here more later, but on traditional Social Security benefit, I can get it at age 62. And if we looked back in the 1930s, guess what your average life expectancy was? 63. So it really wasn't a very difficult financial outlay for us as a government when we had 27 people paying in, one recipient, and on average, that one person was going to live a year. Fast forward to where we are today, it's a very, very different system. Life expectancy, number one, we live that much longer. We also pay benefits for potentially disability, for survivor benefits. And the bullet point that I probably get the most questions about is, well, geez, Sam, we're going to sit through about 30 minutes of you yammering about this. Is this stuff even going to be there? And bullet point number 3 here, more money going out than coming in, might lead you to believe it wouldn't be there. The thing I want you to know as we walk away from today is, do I think Social Security will still be around? Absolutely. And the reason is it has to be. Because as much as I just mentioned that on average, clients receive about 40% of their pre-retirement income, there is a subcategory of people where 100% of their retirement income is solely Social Security. That's not a rug as a country that we can just pull that out. Now, that being said, do I think that the program may look a little differently over the years? Absolutely. We're already on our 4th rendition of Social Security as it is. So I would be naive to say to you here today, oh, how you see it is how it will be forever. So as we move throughout the presentation, I'll kind of pepper in some of the discussion in Washington on how do we shore up the trust fund. But typically what I tell folks is if you're over the age of 55 sitting here listening to this today, what you see is probably going to be what you get. So we already mentioned that Social Security makes up a big piece of the distribution pie, but we'd be remiss if we didn't remind you that the 401k savings that you're doing, your personal savings, maybe you're one of the fortunate few that still have an employer pension plan, your IRAs, sometimes an annuity, and a little sleeve of inheritance is the pizza pie, if you will, of where does distribution planning fit. Now, what you'll notice though in this scenario is no one piece of the pie is any bigger than Social Security. So again, do I feel rather confident that yes, this is going to be around because it has to be? Sure. The other reason that I feel pretty confident it's going to have to be around is because do any of us on this call today who are all working individuals, meaning me and Michael and Rufus and Chris today, do we have any control over the fact that 6.2% is going to get taken out of our check on Friday? And the answer is no. And really, do we have any control if they decide it's not going to be, they being Washington, that it's not going to be 6.2, it's going to be, I don't know, 6.8? No. I mean, I guess every 4 years we get to vote the bums out one way or another, right? But at the end of the day, the control lies, the mechanism, I should say, lies in that taxation. And as long as we've got working individuals paying into a system, then there is cash flow that continues. Nothing gets my blood boiling more than when news likes to say Social Security will be bankrupt. The reason that really bothers me is if you've ever known somebody in your sphere to be bankrupt, could they pay 7 cents on, or excuse me, 72 cents of every dollar that they owed somebody if they were labeled bankrupt? Probably not. And the reality of it is the word should be used insolvent, meaning that there is not enough coming in to necessarily pay out all of the benefits that are going out. Again, though, how do we fix that? Well, potentially an increase in the amount of Social Security tax. The other thing is additional bodies back to work. We also could end up lowering benefits for a subcategory of people. And what I mean by that is we're going to take a peek here at how the different age bands of individuals determines then your Social Security benefit. So could there be a world where they say, you know what, everybody born after 1980, and I'm just picking on that to pull that out, maybe you don't get your full retirement benefits until you're 70. So I share all of this to say I feel rather confident that this Social Security piece of our pie is going to be around, but could I just see that maybe our children's benefits look a little bit different? Absolutely. So what I want to hop into now is just how do you become eligible to receive any of the benefits that you're going to get? And the first thing that you've got to do is you got to unlock the Social Security door. And the way you do that is you earn 40 credits. Now, you'll hear these sometimes interchanged. Instead of saying credit, people will say quarter. I like the word credit better because quarter to me, I think of like a game, and we're in the first quarter, the second quarter, like a period of time. Whereas what's really happening is once I've earned $1,890 this year, I've earned myself one credit. Once I've earned $1,890 times four this year, I've earned myself four credits, and that's the maximum I can get. So I have to get 40 credits or be married to or divorced from somebody who got those 40 credits in order to unlock the Social Security door. Why I say it that way is that's not how you're going to maximize your benefit. I bet you there are individuals in your world that you're like, I don't remember him working all that long. How in the world is he or she getting Social Security? Well, it could be that they've earned their credits, but maybe they haven't maximized the benefit because when it's time to look at your Social Security, they're going to look at your 35 best earned income years. So, what happens if, let's just say for a moment, I was a stay-at-home mom and I stepped out of the workforce for a period of time and I re enter? What went into those years where I didn't have earned income? Zero. If I don't work 35 years, guess what? There are zeros in my average. And any of us who took some basic math know that a zero in our average is going to take our benefit down. So think of it this way. We unlock the door by earning our 40 credits. We unlock the deadbolt, right, by getting the benefits as high as possible by having those 35 years of earned income history. Now, I will tell you, Michael never wants to be the bad guy, but from time to time, he may look at you during your financial planning session and say, if you would just work a couple more years. I assure you, he's not trying to be mean. What he might be trying to do is maximize your benefit. You may be in some of your highest earned income years. He might be trying to push a couple zeros off of your record and bolster your Social Security benefits. I often see this, and we may have some business owners on here. A good accountant's job for a business owner is to get their income to what? As low as possible. And sadly, many times by the time I'm actually chatting with them, they're going, how do I maximize my Social Security benefit? Well, that started by paying yourself something years ago. Now, that being said, as long as you've been investing and putting maybe money back into your business and your business is as an asset that you're going to be able to sell someday, maybe it all works out. But you just have to remember years that you don't show earned income are zeros on your Social Security statement. Now, if you haven't seen your Social Security statement in a while, I'm going to ask you, this is your first thing you're going to jot down on your pad of paper. I hope you've got some notes going here. The first thing I want to tell you is you need to go out and you need to check your Social Security statement. My birthday happens to be in April. Literally yesterday morning, I woke up to the email in my inbox saying, hey, your Social Security statement has been updated. I'm going to go out there and check it. And the reason I'm going to is if there is a mistake on my Social Security statement, I have 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days to get it corrected. Here again, folks, I don't make these rules, I just tell you about them. And so if 4 years ago Protective didn't pay me correctly, and right now I spot that, tough tooties. What the income says I made is what I'm going to get. So, a best practice for all of us, and I know many times our financial advisors ask us for documents. They want to see our 401k statements, they want to see our pension benefits, they want a copy of our Social Security statement. These are all part of that full wealth management and the process to make sure you maximize your benefit. So, where you're going to go is ssa.gov/my account. They only mail paper statements to people who are over the age of 60 and not yet receiving their Social Security benefits. And I will caution you, if it's been a hot minute since you've logged in, you no longer can use your Social Security number as your login. So you may be prompted to change your login information. As long as you went out to that website, go do it. What I'm going to tell you is I would not go through an email to that website because sadly last year when they started making everybody change their login from their Social Security number, there was some phishing scams. So the official SSA email went out. You might have missed that one, and right behind it in the inbox was an email that looked very official. But when you go in and log into that one, you've just given your information to somebody in Abu Dhabi. So let's just make sure we're going out to the actual ssa.gov website and you're following the prompts there to be sure you're getting into your Social Security information. So the other thing you're going to find out there on the page is when can you receive your benefits? And what you're going to notice is if you haven't yet started benefits, you're going to see one number at 62 and you're going to see a much larger number at age 70. And what often people will say to me is the longer I wait to take Social Security, the bigger my check will grow. And there's truth in that statement, but it's two truths. The first truth is this: if I wait till my full retirement age, which that is based on the year in which you were born. So I imagine many of us on today's call are probably finding ourselves somewhere in this mix, right? And maybe 1960 and later. So it's real easy. If I was born 1960 or later, it's the birth month when I turned 67. Where things were a little bit hokey is if my birthday was July 31st, 1955, and I took benefits, say, at 66, well, then I accidentally took benefits 2 months early. And what does it mean to take benefits early? Well, it's a permanent reduction in the Social Security check you will receive the rest of your life. And it is a permanent reduction in the survivor benefit you were going to leave to your spouse upon your demise. Now, remember early on, I mentioned, could there be a change where you see this say, all right, 1970, Now your full retirement age is 68. 1980, your full retirement age is 69. Could they do that? Absolutely. And if we read into the Kaiser Family Foundation statements surrounding Social Security, that is probably the least painful of the three levers that need to be pulled. So, again, if you're keeping track and taking notes, the first of those three things that we will probably see in our lifetime for some change, again, all affecting much younger generations as much as they can first, would be some what they call age tranches plopped in here. So, again, anybody who's 55 and over on here, I'm not worried about that for you. Now, the reason when you look at your statement that those checks look like they just keep going up and up is because if you take Social Security prior to that full retirement age, you have a permanent reduction to that benefit. And that reduction is pretty steep because if I'm 67 on a full retirement age and I take it as early as 62, which is my right, it's a 30% decrease. Whereas what happens from full retirement age going forward to maximizing at age 70 is what's called delayed retirement credits. And what that credit does is it increases my Social Security check by a simple interest of 8%. And I often get asked, do I have to wait the whole year? You would if you want the full 8%. But if I only waited till, say, 67 and a half, I got a 4% increase for nothing more than just waiting to take my Social Security check. Now, if you're following along at this point, you're going, all right, girl, I get it. If I take it early, it's the little check, but it's for the longest period of time. Versus if I wait and take it later, it's the bigger check, but I'm that much closer to expiration. So where are the break-even points, right? Now, what I will tell you is some of these exist very simply calculated because it's nothing more than percentages for a single individual. For example, if I take my full retirement benefit at 67, rather than taking the little check at 62, I'd have to make it to 77 for that to have panned out in dollars and cents. So said a little bit differently, if I think I'm going to die before 77, it might make financial sense from a Social Security standpoint to take my check early. Now, that being said, this is where I'm always going to defer to Michael and Full Wealth Management because nothing gets me more excited than somebody sitting with a financial advisor who gets to tell them not only can you get retired right now, not only can you take your Social Security benefits early, you can distribute XYZ amount from your portfolio and you will never run out of money. Like, what a relief to take a sigh and know you can get retired and more importantly, you can stay retired. Because I don't know if everybody knows this, it's really easy to get retired. Do you know how? You just quit. You just quit. We're retired. It's really tough, though, to stay retired because that's where that distribution planning's got to come into play. And, we talk about 30-year retirements, and it's interesting as you kind of look around your own family's history, that can be a pretty good guide for you. Now, barring some type of horrible, tragic accident, right? Like I had an individual tell me not long ago, yes, my mom and father passed away, when they were in their early 70s. And I'm like, oh my gosh, both of them, I'm so sorry, you tell me about the longevity. Well, they had passed in a car accident. And although very, very sad, that wasn't longevity, that was an accident, right? What I come to find out upon further questioning, her grandfather lived to be 92, mowed his own lawn wearing his white sneaks and tall white socks until the day he died. So that family definitely had some longevity there. So you have to kind of look through to that. And interestingly enough, we start to see it actually even on the mother side. If you've got a granny on your mom's side that lived a long time, the likelihood that you might too, very, very likely. So again, these distributions and getting the money out, I understand too, there's sometimes things that come up. And you may be sitting on today's call going, Sam, if I make it to 70, I'll be lucky with the health situation I'm going through. Or right now, there's such a financial stress on our family that having that $1,200 Social Security check, albeit early, would make the difference. Those are all situations in the privacy of your appointment with Michael that he's going to help you work through. And just because some of you might be sitting here with none of these on your plate doesn't mean a year from now something hasn't changed. So, what I often encourage folks when we think about Social Security is that we don't think about it so rigidly that we go, I'm not taking it until 64, and we place some number, or I'm not taking it till 67, whatever it might be. Because what I can tell you is the last 3 years of our market performance has been amazing. And many times, Michael might have looked at in a portfolio and said, you know what? We can postpone Social Security. Our assets are doing extremely well. We'll take our income from there. This year, we've had a little bit more volatility, right? So now the decision might be, hey, let's not take from our portfolio. Maybe it makes more sense to put the backbone of this distribution plan onto a guaranteed check like Social Security. So this has to be a fluid plan that's worked, and I'd say worked at least annually. All right, we've come a long way together, and the gentlemen were kind enough. They told me I could have about 40 minutes of your time today so that we can leave some time for Q&A. So I'm going to work through spousal benefits, and then we're going straight into taxation, and then we're going to open it back up by me turning it over to Rufus to give you all a chance to ask some questions. So at this point, individual benefits, we're going to take them, we're going to set them off to the side, and we're going to talk about spousal benefits. There's 3 different types of spousal benefits. There's basic spousal benefits, which is if you're married, you have options of your check or theirs. There's divorced benefits, and there's some nuance to that, so we'll go through a slide by slide there. And then sadly, there's also widow or widower benefits. So the first one, which let's call it the happiest of them all, is just your basic spousal benefit. So my husband's name is Brad, and when it's time for Brad and I to retire, I have the right to take 100% of my own benefit if I'm full retirement age, and I can take up to 50% of my living spouse's benefits. So let's just say for a moment, my own check is $4,000. And let's say that Brad's check was going to be $1,000. Well, some quick math says I could take all of my 4,000 or I could take half of Brad's. Well, mama didn't raise no fool. I'm going to take my own in that case, and I'm going to turn on my 4,000. Brad, on the other hand, as my spouse, he has the right to take all of his check, right, which was that $1,000, or up to half of his living spouse's benefit. And I'm going to say it this way, as long as I have turned my benefit on, meaning I went and took it. If I haven't turned my benefit on, my current spouse, hear me clearly when I say current, cannot have access to my Social Security check. So if I go turn on my 4,000, yippee, I'm getting $4,000. My husband now has access to 2,000 of that. So we could have coming into our household $6,000 of predictable income each and every month. That is a basic spousal benefit. One of the keys you kind of probably picked up on me stressing it was up to 50%. Because remember, if my husband was only, say, 62 and he wanted to take benefits off of my record, he can only get 35%, not the full 50. So the way I want us all, if we're keeping a little notepad, another note I would say is my age when I touch a check determines my reduction. My age. So it has nothing to do, I'll hear people say all the time, well, my husband waited till 70. All right, great, good for him. How old are you? My age determines my reduction. So with basic spousal benefits, I might have turned on and taken my 4,000, but if Brad was only 62, He's not getting the full 50, he's only getting 35%. So here again, Michael might look at a married couple, all the more reason why it's so important. You don't always both have to be involved in every financial decision. I get it. Sometimes there's a dominant spouse, let's say, who handles the finances. But the decisions of how you're going to take Social Security as a married couple does matter because what one does has a lasting effect on the other. Now, I mentioned very early in the presentation that I have to be married to or divorced from somebody who earned those 40 credits. The way that divorced benefits work is you have to have been married for at least 10 years. I keep telling marketing, by the way, that they need to fix that. That's supposed to say 10 long years in there. So 10 long years now gets you access once you have divorced. And the question does come up, what's the 10-year period? Marriage certificate to divorce decree. That's the years that they're going to look at. So if I was married to that individual for 10 years, once they are 62, and so am I have access to my ex-spouse's Social Security record. Now, I want you to hear me clearly here because I stressed it before. If I'm married, the rule is you got to love the one you're with because that's the only person you're getting access to their Social Security check. So if, let's just say, God forbid, Brad and I divorce. Brad is now not remarried, but I remarry. Well, then I only have access to my current spouse's benefits, but my ex-husband has access to mine because we were married for more than 10 years. Once I'm over 62, and so is he. This does present some challenges when it comes to the planning process that Michael's going to do for you. If you were divorced, Social Security will not tell you anything about your ex's Social Security benefit until you are 62, and so are they. So sometimes when we're trying to do full financial planning where we want to put a dollar amount in that we can expect, and Michael wants to put that number in there, we might not know what that number is until we get a little bit closer to retirement. So again, gotta have been married for 10 long years. And if you are remarried yourself, you only have access to who you are married to's record, but your ex has access to yours. Sometimes I get questions, and it's always kind of funny because normally if I'm in an in-person presentation, I always know when this question's coming because they wait till the very end after everybody else has left and they kind of come up and they start looking like this. And if you remember the movie How the Grinch Stole Christmas, they get that really crazy wild smile and they say this to me, do you mean to tell me if I never turn on my benefits, my ex won't have access to my Social Security? And they're like giddy about it. And I have to look at them and say, no, you weren't listening. The only person who wouldn't get access to your benefits is you and your current spouse. Your ex will be laughing all the way to the bank because they have access to your check as long as you are 62 and so are they, or older. So hear me out on that. That rule is that way to protect stay-at-home spouses. If you have dedicated your life to caring for your family, you probably haven't earned 40 credits. You don't have 35 years of earned income history. And if you divorce in your 50s, how are you going to go get those things? So again, before we get too upset about somebody having 4 or 5 wives or ex-husbands collecting on benefits, know that the spirit of why that rule is the way it is to protect our stay-at-home spouses. All right, last one, widow and widower benefits. These can be turned on as early as age 60. Sadly, if you do turn them on at 60, it is a deep reduction still to that benefit. And you can, and it's only this way in widow and widower benefits, collect your widow benefits or widower benefits, or sometimes people like to call them survivor benefits. I think that's an easier way in fairness to kind of keep them straight and allow your own record to grow. So hear me on this, because it does not work this way if we're alive. If my husband Brad passes away, I can go and take my survivor benefits off of his record once I am age 60. And I will never have touched my own record. Why is that important? Because Michael has advised me, Samantha, your record is going to keep growing until age 70. You're going to get those delayed retirement credits. So why don't we collect off of Bradley's? And when you turn 70, Samantha, you're going to walk into Social Security, turn off your survivor benefits, and hop right on over to your full 70-year-old check with no age-based reduction. Now, interestingly enough, our Social Security records, Brad and I's, should be connected, meaning when I filed for survivor benefits, they are supposed to connect our benefit, meaning mine and his. Doesn't always happen, if you can believe this. And sadly, 23 years of doing this presentation now, how many folks have come up to me after and said, do you know Social Security got it wrong? I said, tell me more. What happened? Well, I was supposed to be over on my own record and they never put me on it. Now, Social Security will say this to you. We are just one Social Security with hundreds of thousands of recipients. It is the recipient's responsibility to verify accuracy of their Social Security check, both for an underpayment and an overpayment. And I always giggle at that overpayment. I'm like, I'm sure there is a whole department down there finding people with overpayments and collecting those back. But there's not probably one soul looking for folks who should be receiving more that aren't. So here's your third bullet point to write down on your notes. If you have somebody in your sphere, right? Somebody who you know's over the age of 70 who had lost a spouse, I would encourage you to just mention and be like, hey, you're getting the right Social Security check, right? Like I listened to this girl from out of town in a dark suit talk about how people get the wrong check all the time, because nothing would bother me more than to know somebody should have been switched over and it didn't happen. So it's worth doing an audit. They just go down to the Social Security office. They could actually even set this up over the phone and you just have them do a Social Security income audit to be sure that they're right on the right check. All right, our time is getting close to being done on prepared comments, but I've got to tell you two more things. Number one, if you decide to do what we like to call double dip, meaning, aha, Sam, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn on that early Social Security check at 62. I'm going to take that reduced benefit. I'm going to reduce my hours at work down to just enough where I still keep my health care, because leave it to us to let you as individuals be eligible for Social Security at 62, but not eligible for Medicare till 65. And then I'll keep my health care in at 65, then I'm out of here. Sounds like, on the surface, a really cool plan. Sadly, Social Security is on to you. And what they say is, once you have earned income, hear my word correctly there, earned income this year of $24,480, for every $2 over that, they reduce your Social Security check by $1. So maybe our master plan doesn't work. And I'm sure Michael has had to advise clients over the years to say, look, don't turn on Social Security right now, even though you're eligible, because you make too much money. If you're earning, and I can't stress that word earned, the best definition of earned I can give you is if they are taking FICA out of that dollar, that is earned income on here. So I'm not Uncle Sam. I don't want to hear about, your friend who's paying you cash on, not my job there. But if it is earned income, right, this will catch up to you. And sadly, they will recoup back what you were overpaid in Social Security. The year in which you turn full retirement age, that number goes up. It gets a little more friendly, of closer to 66,000. The thing you also got to know is it is only earned income up to that point. And then when you retire, as long as you don't have earned income going forward, you're fine. So let me give you an example. What day is it? It's March the 25th. I've made $2 million. Wow, what a year. I'm quitting and I'm retiring. Will my $2 million disqualify me from my Social Security for this year? The answer is no, as long as going forward, I don't earn. So that allows us to retire mid-year and not have the income in which we've already been accounted for affect our Social Security. Where problems happen is I get retired and then I'm like, man, my golf game's really good. My pickleball's on point. I'm kind of bored. I'm going back to work. And now I go back to work in October. Now I'm in trouble because I'm going to have earned income for the year after I truly was retired. So here's what I will say about all of that. Please, when these things and these conversation and Michael is doing his annual reviews, as things change in your life, he needs to know about those things. Because if you're sitting here contemplating retiring in the middle of the year and we're trying to wait out, do we turn on Social Security, do we not? There is some nuance to how you may or may not do that. And lots of people like to do what I call the practice retirement, where they like scale back their hours, but they don't completely unplug out of the office. And I completely get that. I find a lot of self-worth through the work I do every day. When I'm on vacation, I struggle to truly be like, I like this business. So I get it. The moment all of a sudden, like you're supposed to just be gone from doing it, might not sit well with all of us. That's okay. But we just have to be careful. Then how do we plan our distributions to make sure we don't end up with a penalty on money that you were taxed on to put into the bucket to begin with? So here's where we're going to end. My least favorite topic. It's where we normally suck all the air out of the room, taxation. So, how is Social Security taxed? Well, remember, it was a tax to get it into the bucket, 6.2%, right? That's how it went in. Another 1.45 on all wages for the Medicare tax. When it's time to start taking money back out, now we are subject to what's called provisional income. So provisional income says this: we're going to add up all the income from your wages. Pension income. Pension income would not disqualify you from an earnings test. And sometimes people, they're like, but wait, I earned that pension. Yes, but it's not earned income in the sense of when you're taking it. But it will be counted as provisional income. Your investment income, any non-reportable income. So if I got a municipal bond, right, and it's not maybe federally or state, depending upon where we're all located, right, on our tax return, that's still going over onto provisional income. Any other exclusions to income, I feel like that's like a fancy way of saying you make it, we count it, and then half of your Social Security benefit. Now, why are we adding all of these things up? Because then we're coming over onto the provisional income tax brackets and we're looking to see whether I'm a married individual, which those are joint filers are in the black bolded, single filers are in parentheses and purple. That determines then how much of my Social Security benefit is then taxable income to me. So for those married couples under 32,000 and single filers under 25,000, any of the Social Security benefit that I had is zero tax to me. So this was the One Big Beautiful Bill Act did place some credits here. And given that I am not a tax professional and do not give tax advice, I'm not going to go down the path of telling you how to maximize those things. What I will encourage you to do is if you are taking Social Security, that you have those conversations with Michael, because as you imagine from all of these different provisional income sources, some of these may be more beneficial to distribute in one year versus the other year if you're doing planning from a tax standpoint. Now, granted, sometimes I get told, yeah, Sam, but the problem is the tax stuff is always changing. That is true. We have to make the decisions with the information that we have at the time. But there's many different investment options that are out there that might help you avoid having, for example, maybe I have interest income. And if I just had that tax deferred, right, then that wouldn't be showing up over here and making my Social Security that much more taxable. Again, for a professional's eyes to go on and a conversation in conjunction with your tax professional. But I would argue that there's more reasons this year to have those ongoing conversations than we've had probably in the last three. So, like I said, please don't shoot the messenger on this part. I only tell you about these rules. I don't make them. SSA.gov is your Social Security hotline. You are welcome to go to your in-person offices. Those are all back open. I strongly suggest you schedule an appointment so that you don't sit in a waiting room for 2 hours with some of the strangest people you've ever met in your life. And instead, maybe first stop off with Michael. He is retiring lots of people every year with the same question you might have. He's got resources like myself that he can come to if he doesn't have the answer. And as a last ditch effort, we send you down to the local Social Security office for some additional help. So, with that, these are my prepared remarks today. I'm going to move forward to opening it up for questions. And again, thank Rufus and Michael for allowing me to be their guest today. Oh, you're on mute, Rufus. I'm so sorry.
Oh, there it goes. I hit the button, but I was talking too fast. So thank you. Samantha, thank you for your presentation today. I know it was very informative for our guests today, and we appreciate everything for getting that out to our members so they can make some on-time decisions about Social Security. So with that, if you have questions, please use the raise your hand button. It should be on the panel there. And as soon as we have questions in the queue, I will unmute your line and give you the floor so that you can present your questions.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you for the information. A lot of good information, Samantha, so thank you for that. I have pretty basic questions. Uh, some people say take those Social Security benefits as early as possible, which is 62, and some say wait till you're 67. I just turned 62 3 months ago, and I was kind of contemplating when I should take them out. I think I was hoping maybe I can wait till 65, but I like to know the pros and cons for early withdrawal or the later time. And also, I think you touched upon on taxes. So my spouse is working, and you're saying if we have combined income of, I believe 32,000, you said, we will be taxed on that at 85%. Is that true?
So let's unpack just a couple things from that question. And if you'll stay unmuted for me, I may have a follow-up for you. So the first thing I want to know, are you currently working?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So my first concern about suggesting at the 62 is if your own earned income is going to put you over that threshold where you would have to give back your Social Security check, then you would be correct to say, well, I should probably be waiting later to then when you don't have earned income. So your own earned income, if it's over that $24,000 threshold, it would be silly to give back some Social Security money simply because you make too much money.
Okay.
The second part of that is then if you turn on the social, let's just say for a moment your earned income is under 24 and you go, sweet, I can get all my earned income. I can take my reduced Social Security check because you're only 62. So we've got that age-based reduction. The second part is then all the income we have, your spouse, your Social Security, your income, all of that now is going towards determining your provisional income amount. So you could end up bumping yourself up to a point where Social Security is a little bit more taxable than it otherwise would be. But I say it with like a little caveat because with the One Big Beautiful Bill Act and the credit that's been placed for our Social Security recipients, a lot of individuals are not going to pay that. So provisional, the current administration had hoped to get rid of provisional income. If they had gotten their way, that slide wouldn't even have been in this presentation come this year. Sadly, they didn't completely get that across the finish line. So in exchange, there was a credit that's been placed. So again, I'm more thoughtful surrounding the fact that you still have earned income and suggesting, but I would really encourage you probably a conversation and a deeper conversation with Michael to look at all the other things too from a saving standpoint, because it's not just do I turn it on at 65 or 62? It's if I turn it on, can I get retired? And more importantly, can I stay retired?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today. Well, I will say this, I made myself also available to Michael. So if you have questions that later come up, or you think of something that you're just not comfortable asking in front of the group, Michael's contact information is here. And so please, anytime he has my direct line, he'll call me and I'll happily, for any of your members, Michael, conference call in and help out the best I can for you.
Okay, and Todd, I
Yeah,
believe you're up.
yeah, thank you, Samantha. I appreciate it. I do have a quick question on, I think, a slide you skipped over, and that is for teachers. I have a spouse who's in that situation and wanted to understand that scenario better.
Yes. Do you live in a state in which your spouse, who is a teacher, pays into Social Security?
No.
Okay, so prior to one of the last things that the Biden administration did was there used to be a calculation that was placed that said if you didn't pay into Social Security, then you wouldn't get your full potential spousal and survivor benefits off of a spouse who did. That has since been changed. And so now, if they go out and they actually, I know many teachers who get part-time jobs, let's say in the summertime, who do get their 40 credits and do actually earn a Social Security check. Sadly, if they were going to receive a pension from a state in which they didn't pay in, there was the government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision that they were subject to. And the reason that, Todd, I kind of skimmed over it is because that has been wiped away.
Hmm.
So now they have the right to receive both their Social Security check and receive spousal or survivor benefits off of their spouse's record.
Okay, but just survivor benefits, not spousal benefits.
No, they could still receive spousal benefits.
Okay. But
Yeah.
do they have to have the credits?
So no, you just have to be married to somebody or divorced
Okay,
from who does, and their record has to be open.
perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for being here. Thank you for the question.
Right, and I believe Kelly, we have you up.
Oh, Kelly, are you there?
Okay,
There she
here we
goes.
go. Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, I can. How are
Oh,
you?
fantastic. Samantha, I just wanted to say bravo. Your
Oh,
content was spot on and your delivery very engaging. So thank you very much. Also, Rufus, your Q&A chat option is disabled. There might be some people who want to submit questions via text versus raising their hand and submitting it via audio. So I just want to let you know about that. That being said, I did have a question teed up to submit via chat, but I'm going to go ahead and just uh, ask you and Samantha, and if you can weigh in, I sure would appreciate it. So this is very specific, based on someone I love. So here's the example situation, which I think is very common. Say a 67-year-old single individual is ready to claim Social Security. They claim Social Security, but they want to continue working part-time for some additional earned income. Say a part-time job, 15 to 20 hours per week, and we're looking at maybe less than 1K per month. So my curiosity question for you, and I think you did address this on a previous slide, but I'd like to gain clarity on this, is if a person is working and earning income after claiming Social Security. I'd like to better understand how that impacts their Social Security benefit check on a monthly basis. So, for example, is there an annual earned income amount above which a person's monthly Social Security check will be impacted? That's my question. I hope that was clear.
It is. It's very clear. Thank you. So here's the good news. Once somebody is full retirement age, so the right now the oldest that would be is 67, the month you turn 67. You can make as much money as you want, and you will not be subject to the earnings test that Social Security places. You'll still have taxation. We never get rid of Uncle Sam. But the earnings test is really, and if we think of it this way, in the eyes of Social Security, you are not retired if you are earning more than that $24,000 number if you're not your full retirement age. But once you hit 67, they say, Kelly, have at it, make $1 million. We'll still send you your full Social Security check. It's only when you're not full retirement age are you subject to that earnings limit.
Thank you very much, Sam.
You're welcome. And I hope you enjoy or your friend enjoys whatever they're doing for those extra hours. I think it's important to stay engaged in some work and keeps our minds moving too. Rufus, how am I doing on time? Am I still okay?
We're good. We've got about 5 minutes left. We've got a couple of two questions left in the queue.
Perfect.
Right. And Donnie, I believe we have you up next.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
We
Yes.
can. Hi, Donnie.
Okay, great. Just want to make sure. Thank you. I have two questions. I'll try to speed them up. I wanted to make sure I understood about the spousal Social Security. So when my wife worked, when we started having kids, she stopped working, kids are gone, she's working again. I go out and I look at her Social Security statement on SSA.gov, says you have earned enough credits to qualify for retirement. Okay, so let's do a like easy math here. I'm trying to keep it simple. Let's say at age 67, we both retire. Let's say her amount is $1,000, and let's say my amount is $4,000. If I understood you correctly, I could draw my 4,000. She would draw her 1,000 plus 50% of mine, 2,000, which would equal 3,000, which would give us 7,000.
We were almost there, Donnie. That was close. I would love to give you that. Here's how it works. So you are correct. You're going to get your 4,000, no problem. Your full retirement age in your example at 67. Since you have turned yours on, right? Your 4,000 on, she has access to her spousal benefit off of Donnie's record. So what happens is she forgoes her 1,000 and instead gets half of yours for a total of 2,000. So now your family household income is 6,000.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah,
So
you
she
get the better
forgoes
of.
her 1,000 because perfect. Perfect. If I then pass away, what does she get?
Good question. So now she is a survivor and she gets the
Yep.
higher of those two checks. And so
Is
instead
she?
of getting the 2,000, she's going to get 4,000 total. So sadly, when somebody does pass, a check passes with them. And so she'll get the higher of those two checks. In this example, she'll get 4,000 now.
Perfect. Okay. Last question. And I think this may be for Michael. I'm not sure. So I have Social Security. We have that. We have a 401k. My assumption, and this is probably a financial planning question, my assumption is why not, if I can live off the Social Security, live off of that, because then my 401k is continuing to earn money off itself because my Social Security is not earning money. So I try to live off Social Security as long as I can, as you know, cost of living goes up. Then I start drawing off the 401k. Would that be the right attitude, direction?
For me,
Michael, I'll let you handle that one. How's that?
yeah, I would, if you could live off your Social Security payment, I would live off that. If you're comfortable with that, I would do that. And I'm assuming that 401k is a traditional 401k, not a Roth 401k. So if it is a
Correct.
traditional 401k, obviously at 73, you have to take RMD, required minimum distribution. But if you could live off Social Security until 73, then obviously government wants their taxes, wants their money. So at that time, you would take the required minimum distribution off your 401k, and that will supplement some of your income.
Okay. Thank you
So
guys very much.
to
I
answer
appreciate
your
your
question,
time.
Donnie, I would live off Social Security if you can do that comfortably.
Okay. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you for being here.
You're
Uh-oh.
We
on
have
mute,
one more
Rufus.
question in the queue. That's going to take us a little past our 3 o'clock mark, but we're going to go ahead and take it and make sure we have all of our questions answered for today. So, and W. Carter, you are up.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very quickly, like I said, my question is very simple. Like for the past 35 years, I've been solely focused on saving, and accumulating as much money as I can. So now my focus is trying to learn as much about Social Security as I can. So just a very simple question. I've been onto the SSA.gov site, but it was a little confusing to me. I'm not, because I don't have an account yet, so I need to get this account set up. So what is the process to get the account set up?
Yes. So there's a spot where it says my account out there. And it's funny, I haven't been out there recently because when you have an account already, it takes you in a different route.
Okay.
I can look and see if there's a Q&A. There used to be a document out on there. And if
Okay.
there is, Michael, I could send that to you as a follow-up to share. And forgive me, Mr. Carter, we can't see your first name. So if you want to
No.
send
Oh,
Michael a message.
okay. It's Willie, but yeah. But
Okay, Willie.
okay.
So that way, because I think there's a PDF that actually like walks through that Social Security has created to just say like step by step. But
Okay.
it's still the spot where it's my account, but
Okay.
there's additional drop down that says like create account. And
Okay.
that's where they got to go in. And it used to be that they would verify your identity by asking you questions from your credit report. And
Okay.
if you got them wrong, it would lock you out. Now they'll actually, if you've got a smartphone, they
All
will
right.
send you a text to your smartphone with a code, and you
Okay.
just enter the code in, and that's how it verifies the identity.
Yeah, because I was trying to read information and some people was talking about they had to like take a picture of the driver's license and I'm like, do what? It just seemed like it was kind of confusing to me trying to figure out the process to get the account set up. So
Okay, I'll have to look at that. I know that there is and I had already gone through it before they started doing that,
hmm.
but there is now, and forgive me, it's escaping me, a verification. So maybe that is how they're doing it.
Okay.
But I know like if you're already like a public employee or something, there's a code that you would have already had that they can use to verify. But if it's just, Willie Carter who's been working at whatever, I that
Right.
that actually rings a bell as I'm saying this out loud that you may have to go through that. But let me see if I
Okay.
can't find that PDF that they have. And Rufus and Michael, I'll share that with you both. Will you make sure it makes it to Willie? Okay,
I
thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, thanks for coming today.
Yeah, we'll definitely get that over to him. All right. That is all of our questions in the queue today. So thank you, Michael and Samantha. And to all of our members for joining us today, we appreciate you taking the time to attend Understanding Social Security presented by our partner LPL Financial and brought to you by InTouch Credit Union. We hope you found today's information helpful and informative. If you have any additional questions and would like to get some more information, or you have questions that come up after the fact, Michael's information is up on the screen for you to take note of. He'll be happy to answer those as quickly as he can as they come through. Have a great rest of your day. This concludes our webinar for today.
Thank you, Samantha, Rufus. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Have already gone, Rufus?
Yeah, just a sec.